Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Go-To Aesthetics Coach podcast, where we talk real strategy, next generation treatments, and the business of beauty with the best in the industry. And today I have the absolute privilege of speaking with a true pioneer in medical aesthetics. Her name is Raquel Merlini, and she is the lead injector at Skin Aesthetics. And at Skin, Raquel brings a wealth of experience. I'm so excited to get into these conversations. She's a certified aesthetics nurse specialist and has a remarkable 30-year tenure in aesthetics. She spent 13 of those years training intensively under a plastic surgeon, assisting in countless facial procedures, and logging over 40,000 clinical hours. I had to read that over twice. Her skill set is truly unmatched, and her commitment to excellence, it's really positioned her as the go-to destination for clients that are seeking that, refined, natural, transformative results. So Raquel, welcome to the show.
Thank
I
you.
love, yeah, no, thank you so much for being here, Raquel. I love to just kind of start with letting us know a little bit more about yourself and our skin aesthetics. And just, I would love to hear, like, what is your why as to, why you're in this industry?
Yes. So, a couple of things with your introduction. I always laugh because I'm like 30 years in hours, which makes me sound really old, right? And I always say I'm pickled, I'm preserved. So I have been in the industry for a long time and I've seen a lot of trends for sure. And some of them good trends, some of them not so good trends. And I do think it's really important and valuable, which Kayla, you and I will touch on later, about keeping patients, within the true realm of their own natural beauty, right? That it's supposed to be, aesthetics industry, I believe, was developed more as enhancement. So as opposed to looking like caricatures of ourselves. So
Yes,
you paid for a
exactly.
little painting at the Five and Dime or the amusement park. But so my love of aesthetics has been years and years. My aunt was a hairdresser and I grew up at the hair salon with her, playing in the makeup. And, it was whenever we do sleepovers in grade school, my girlfriends would, want to watch a movie. And I'm like, no, let's do oatmeal face masks and put, sparkling cider in wine glasses,
Oh, I love
paint our
that.
nails and everything. So, I mean, I've just always been like that, but I'm also a tomboy. And, me creating our skin aesthetics, like you mentioned earlier, I did work for a plastic surgeon for 13 years. I started first as an esthetician. I gained my true esthetician license in 2008, but I had worked for Clinique when I was 18, and then I was model of the year, and I dallied a little bit in modeling and product specialist, narration, as well as behind the scenes being a stylist. So I always knew that this was just kind of my
Calling.
driving force. Yes. And then I became a stay-at-home mom and I put everything on the back burner. And my claim to fame would be we lost everything in the collapse of 2008. And so my ex-husband and I at the time, we'd lost everything. And I was kind of, my kids were getting older, and I decided I would go back to school because I didn't have a formal education. So I
Yeah.
did that. And when we moved out of state, and then when we came back state, I was looking who I wanted to work for. And I knew I wanted to be in plastics or in a med spa. And again, you have to remember that that's like 2010. So med spas were kind of on the precipice of growth, but not like we've seen in the last 5 years that I really contribute kind of social media to that.
Mhm.
And once I joined the plastic surgeon's office, he was like, I was dabbling with school also. And he's like, what are you, going to school for? And I said, I really don't know, maybe psychology. And he said, would you consider nursing school? And I was like, oh my God, I'm 38 years old. Do I really want to go to nursing
Oh my
school?
God.
So I ended up going through a divorce and I put myself through nursing school. And so I started my aesthetics journey in the nursing world right about that time. So,
Oh my gosh. Okay, I was
yeah.
already inspired before knowing all of that. That really, honestly, that touched my heart, everything that you just said. Like, good for you for going and doing all that. That's incredible.
Yeah,
Wow.
I think as women, I mean, roles, whatever they may be, but once you become a mom, you kind of things alter. But the great thing is, I think as women, if we tend to kind of band together and empower, one another, the strength that we are capable of is exponential, right? So for
Yeah.
me, and a lot of my girls, as we touch further in this podcast, weren't even nurses. So I've kind of taken them under my wings and been able to encourage them. And again, this industry is so amazing because as women, we're moms, we're daughters, we're wives, and friends, and we give so much to everybody else that once kind of get in the treatment room, it gives me an opportunity to nurture and kind of pour that love into my patient. And I just think we're in such an amazing industry to
Yeah,
do
I
that,
know.
to have that opportunity, right?
Yeah, it's so true. And I know that there's probably so many people listening right now that that's just really touched their hearts. Like I'm such a big believer in one, like you said, like women empowerment, community. It's incredible, especially in aesthetics. Like yeah, it's just it's moving. And I honestly I love the fact that you mentioned like at 38 going back to school. That's not easy. Like a lot of people would shy away from that, to be honest, because it's a lot of like that, well, what if it's, or this and that.
Yeah.
But you pushed through it and you went for it, and now look at you. So thank you for doing that. And you're like contributing to this industry in such a powerful way. So yeah, I think honestly
Yeah,
that's
it's
amazing.
never too late. That's what I tell everybody. I was having a discussion, my daughter's 30, and she's like, yo, I wanted to do my PhD, but I've given up that dream. And I was like, what are you
Yeah.
talking about? You're 30. Like, I mean, I'm
Yeah.
considering going back for my nurse practitioner, and I'm 52 now. So, it's just I think that you can do, and I have clients who are at the age of 64 who, were like, I want to be an attorney. I've been working in IT all my life and now and they go to law school. So, I think we're capable of so much. And of course, your best lessons are your hardest lessons too.
Yeah.
But they were some pretty challenging character building moments, working full time and going through a divorce and going to school full time. But
Yeah.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah, you're passionate. Like this is your
Yeah.
mission and nothing's getting in your way.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
wow. No, I love thanks so much for sharing that. Honestly, I actually like I literally have goosebumps because I really feel aligned with your vision and everything that you just said. Like big believer in like we can do anything in this
Yeah.
world. Like we literally have limitless potential and possibilities. So a lot of it just comes down to like breaking past fear and being brave and
Yeah.
putting that action and implementation in place. So you've clearly done that. So yeah, kudos to you. That's incredible.
Thank you.
Okay, so Raquel, I'd love to hear about, how you've built so much authority and you've really curated yourself as an expert in this industry. How did you evolve into the high performer that you are in this space today?
Yeah. So good question, because especially I feel like with the explosion of social media, really, and then coupled with COVID, that people want to get out of bedside nursing and they want to be in medical aesthetics. And, I see, so I had a medical assistant who recently just graduated from, she wanted to do what I do. And I told her, go to nursing school. She did the accelerated program and she just graduated. And she's like, oh, I have all these people that want to train because I'm going to start becoming an educator. And I said, I just sit and think like they're going to nursing school specifically just to inject. Okay. Not that
Yeah.
there's anything wrong with that. I think that's great. But I also think that you need to have some experience, bedside. Because I'll frequently, I had a cute little girl in here and she's like, oh, I want to do what you do. And I'm going to be graduating. And, what do I have to do? And I think that when people look at social media, they think that it's easy, right? Because
Yeah.
they're seeing someone look glamorous. I mean, we didn't have heat, or I'm sorry, we didn't have air conditioning in our building. And I'm like drenched in sweat. It's still a little warm in here today. And I'm thinking this is anything but glamorous, right? Like, look
Yeah.
at me at the end of the day with my glasses on crooked, you know, and I'm
Yeah.
a hot, sweaty mess. But everybody's walking out of my office looking good, and I'm like the cobbler with the holes in the shoes. So I think that it's patience for one, and not patience with the T, but patience with the C. You have to do the time. I mean, so I was very fortunate with my previous office that we had in OR. So I was the only person who had been cross trained at this plastic surgeon's office. And I did aesthetics, which was chemical peels and lasers, microneedling. But then I also worked as a circulating nurse in the OR. I would pre-op patients, post-op them, circulate. And then I also worked as a medical assistant. So, it can be challenging when someone comes to my office because I have an expectation that I knew what my surgeon wanted before he ever even asked. And so my medical assistant was with our previous physician for 28 years, and she's followed me over, and we've both been trained similarly. So she knows what I'm thinking before I even ask for it. She just hands it to me. So, and I digress, but it's a whole dynamic of you have to be patient. You have to do your due diligence. Just because you hang a sign on the door and you're offering Botox doesn't mean that they're going to come. And that doesn't mean also for you to be frustrated, right? That you just have to, it's networking. It's getting involved in your community. It's reaching out. Like a great feeder of mine was hairstylists because they're doing hair.
Yeah,
What are they talking about? They're talking
exactly.
about face and skin. So I always say to
Yes.
injectors, talk to your hairstylist. Give them your cards. I don't like to do trades just because I feel like someone always feels like they have the short end of the stick, but figure something out like, a sip and see or baubles and Botox with, if you've got somebody who has a little side hustle at home, whether it's booty bands or, jewelry. But
Yeah.
I think networking is a huge thing. The other I was a professional bodybuilder, so I understand I kind of like looking at topics to talk about like the facial wasting and GLP-1s and, remodeling of collagen. But I was a professional bodybuilder and I understood like our bodies would be super on point. We'd look like anatomy posters, but my face looked like Arnold. So, I mean, it was all drawn and, very sunken in. So I was able to kind of network and bring that part of my life into my injectable practice to build. And I mean, thank God I was super blessed because I was cross trained. So I was still able to pull a salary while I was building my injectable practice. But, I mean, if you don't have a little bit of a nest egg or something else, if you can do something part-time, like stay at the hospital, and then do a couple times a week injectables. I don't like to say it's a side hustle because I think it's far from. I think you have to log the hours and the time. But I worked nights, I worked weekends. It's putting in your time, your dues.
Hmm. No, I love that, and it's so true. I feel like sometimes it's it's like it's perceived as like easy. It's like, okay, no, like we have a dream and a goal and a passion, which is so
Mhm.
amazing. And then it's like, oh no, I can just, go into it and, make a couple posts on marketing and like that's gonna be it. But it's true, like the real like part of this, like the grit and the level of determination it takes is yeah, you gotta put your time in. You gotta do your due diligence and get the hours. And I love that you've done that. And that I think that really exemplifies like why you are where you are right now and like what makes you a true leader because you have that experience. And like, as you mentioned, like the cross functionality and you've worked in so many different capacities that it's built a different perspective and just level of expertise that you have. So yeah, I totally agree with you. And oh, I love that you hit on when you're talking about like marketing and
Yeah.
building your community and strategic partnerships. That's something that I always talk about like when I'm coaching with clients because it's so important and it's a huge driver of our business, especially when you're newer and you're like, okay, I've done all the things, but now where are the clients? How am I getting them?
Right.
And it's like, okay, so we need to be creative and we need to utilize different things. And it's funny that you said hairstylist because that's actually one of the like the top things that I tell my clinics and they're always like hairstylists really like I thought maybe like a lash extension artist or but hairstylists, it's like I've seen such good results with that because as you said, they have someone sitting in their chair for
Right.
sometimes hours and like talk about everything. They're like their therapist sometimes. So it's like, yeah, they're going to talk about you. And then you're literally building your own little like sales reps. And you know, you help each other out, and that's a community, and that's how we get organic, real growth.
Yeah.
So you hit all the points. I absolutely love that. Okay, so and you know, I was curious. I wanted to learn more about what really sets you and your team apart and drives consistent client satisfaction and loyalty. So like I hear a lot about people who are coming in and clinic hopping for, you know, the cheapest price, but
Yeah.
how have you built that kind of loyalist advocate client base in your practice?
Yes. So I would have to say, for me personally, one of the biggest is I treat everybody as an individual, right? And you're not doing uh a favor by coming here. You know, like I want you to be here. I'm excited that my patient is walking in the door. Even if they've been a long time patient for 13 years, I genuinely care and want to know about their life. I still to this day write handwritten thank you notes. You know, I
Oh,
think
I
that's
love that.
important.
Yeah,
And I have all of my girls do it. I think that personalizes in a world full of AI.
exactly. Yeah,
Now that I've built kind of my own patient structured base and we've opened up our own place, we're celebrating 2 years and with an expansion underway. So I'm kind of in the midst of construction
oh
right
my
now.
gosh,
We're adding
congrats.
3 more rooms. So super blessed. I'm watching my girls grow and develop, which is amazing. But it's my front desk. So it's when I ask a patient, like, can you give me feedback? Can you tell me what it is about our skin that keeps you coming back? And from the patient's mouth, they will explain to me that it is from the first time that they book their appointment, then they get an email. If you're brand new, you get a welcome packet. Then we send you a text. You know, I mean, that is the great thing with all of the booking apps now. But then when they come in from the door, walk in through the door, my front desk girl and patient, actually, I shouldn't say that because that's diminishing her responsibility. My patient coordinator is amazing. Not only is she gorgeous, but you walk in, she stands up.
Yeah.
Her and I just went for a coffee and we were walking around. We're in Birmingham, Michigan, and we were walking around. And we walked into a shop and there was a girl that we said, "Hi, oh my God, this store smells so great. Look at all these great clothes. We're so excited to be here." She's
Yeah.
literally Kayla, and that's her name is Kayla also.
That's funny.
Kayla and I look at each other, and this young lady, she was very, very adorable, and she's on her phone. "Hi,
Oh,
hi. Yeah, okay. If you need anything, let me know." And we walked out and we looked at each other and we were like, oh my God, if the owner knew this. So, my Kayla, she stands up, she greets you. You're
yeah.
not sitting in a waiting room. As soon as you walk in, my other medical assistant slash she works at the front desk also, Alicia or Michelle, who's been with me, like I said, she was with Doc for 28 years. She's been with me for 13, whisks the patient in the back. And right away, Michelle's already asking you, where are you going on vacation? How was your holiday? She knows the names of their children. She knows the name of their dog. She knows where they vacation. Michelle knows everything about that person. And then she'll come back and she'll tell me, so and so's here today. This is what they want. And by the way, they were just vacationing in Utah. They were skiing. You know, they, wherever they went, like we're part of their journey. And then by the time I get there, I'm already like filled in on everything going in on their life. And then we do become like the hairdresser,
Yeah.
with their therapist, right? I go in and it's not a wham bam, thank you, ma'am. I sit down and I ask them, how are they doing? So I spend my Botox appointments are about 20 minutes. I see anywhere from 20 to 25 patients a day. And the first really 10 minutes, all I'm doing is sitting with them and having girlfriend time.
Yeah.
And then we figure out what Botox they need, or we transition. If they're filler, that appointment's 40 minutes so that I'm not rushed. And then if we need longer, because we're doing a little bit more, we schedule it appropriately. But to answer your question, I really feel what sets our skin apart from anybody else is just that you literally feel like you're walking into your girlfriend's home and you're welcome. There's no pretense here. We keep everything very down to earth. And because it can be intimidating, right? You're already in a vulnerable position. You're seeking
Mhm.
out, we're all so self-critical of ourselves. We look at Instagram, we look at social media, we think that we should be looking that particular way. And then we're measuring ourselves against these beauty standards. And then you have to go in somewhere where we're very tight-knit family, so we can be a little intimidating if you didn't know us, only because we all get along and we're teasing each other and having a good time. So, but I have patients who are like, if you're ever hiring, could we work here?
Oh my
So
gosh.
it is, you are part of the Arskin family the minute that you are a patient of ours.
Wow. I honestly I was like, as you were saying all that, I was like, I want to go there. Because, like, that's you it's just exactly it, like, we want to create an experience rather than just a
Yes.
service, right? Like, people are coming there, they're busy moms, busy professionals, and, like, this is, like, really sacred time to them, like, this is their time, and, like you said, like, getting up to stand and actually welcome someone, you can do so much with so little, like, just, like, smiling even with your voice and, like, offering to take a jacket or offering a drink, like it goes such
Yeah.
a long way. And then bringing in like that human aspect, like you're talking about, you take that first 10 minutes for girl time. I love that you put that. I don't ever actually hear that. Like I very rarely hear that. And I actually find sometimes people want to like take away the consultation time because time is money, yes. But
Yes.
I think one of the most important things, and you really hit on this, is like actually making time for that because that's where you're building the relationship. That's where you're creating an experience rather than a service. And that's where we're actually getting an opportunity to understand, uncover their needs, which you mentioned. And then we can actually lay out a proper protocol and explain why that's going to meet the needs that they're looking for and like help them achieve what they're actually looking for because there needs to be a bit of education. It's
Right.
not just like, no, you need to buy, you need this. It's like, and it's quick in and out. It's like, I feel like we're not doing our due diligence by doing that. We're not serving them. We need to explain like why and,
Well, you're
all
right.
the things. Yeah.
I mean, this is medicine. I get so crazed because I'm like, this is still, we have to assess, right? You have to ask those questions. And then what is it that you're looking for? Are you even a candidate for that? Because I think that's another thing. I mean, we're very honest here, and my patients walk out looking natural. I mean,
Yeah.
my personal philosophy, and again, it's not that I'm saying anybody else is wrong or not good, but my personal philosophy is that you should walk out, no one should even know you had anything done,
Yeah.
right? The injectable is the undetectable. So, you're just supposed to look refreshed. So, but I just feel like you have to go through that assessment process. You have to go through the consultation. You need to put together a plan. And then, like you very smartly put, is you have to then educate the
Yes.
patient
Yeah.
on why they're getting what the product is. We recently had a patient come in. She was hysterical. She was crying. And she's like, I went somewhere. I don't know what I have in my face. She's showing us a picture. It's a non FDA approved in the United States. Now, I mean, you guys had Bellatero years before the States ever had Bellatero, and it's a great product. I love it. But you guys were a little bit more forward with some of your approvals than we are. I
Right.
don't know about this product. Maybe this product is a great product, but it's not FDA approved. But even more importantly, it's not a physician who's injecting, it's an esthetician. So, people aren't even being educated on what's going in their face and the why. Like, here at Arskin, we have every single product that you can imagine. So
Mhm.
I've got all the biostimulators, I've got the PDGF, I don't always hop on the bandwagon. I like it to be a little proven, but I have enough tools in our toolbox that if somebody comes in, I can do a combination therapy for a patient. And I'm not just doing, because that's who I set the account up with.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's another key aspect that's really getting lost in medicine.
Mhm.
I mean, you don't just give the patient what you have on the shelf at the cardiologist because that's what you've got.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly. Exactly. It's not like that. And it shouldn't be like that. It's not just a quick in and out. This is what you need. Okay, goodbye.
right, it's medication. We're prescribing medication and
And
injecting
putting it
medication
in your
in
face.
your
Yeah.
face.
So yeah, no, I love that you touched on that. It's so, so important. And it's where we need, it's the direction that we need to go. So thanks for bringing like awareness and, just your thought process on that. There's something else that you brought up that I wanted to just touch on because it's an interesting point. You mentioned like you were talking, I think, about like apps and or no, not apps, but like Instagram and how
Yeah.
people are looking perfect. So like in that world, obviously, like, with AI technology, like and editing and apps, like there's a lot, everyone's editing and all of this. And
Yeah.
there's a lot of unrealistic, like unrealistic expectations.
Yeah.
Do you ever have someone come in? It's like they show something like I want to look like this, like either maybe it's like a celebrity or it's like someone who's been like, generated in some way, not realistic. And how do you handle that situation?
Yeah, right.
It's hard. I can imagine.
Yeah, when you come in and you don't have lips, you just genetically have a straight line, and you show a picture of Angelina Jolie lips, like that's not realistic. Also, I think with my background coming from plastics, I'll recommend you need a lip lift. And that still is not even going to counter the problem, but it might roll up a little bit, shorten your philtrum column, maybe see a little bit more of that wet dry border, and then you can maybe work on some volume. So that's the other thing. If I don't think that I can help them achieve their look, I try to look for something else, another solution. Like there is a surgical route, because also I filler face. I don't want everybody walking around with these puffy faces.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a big believer, get a facelift and get it when you're young, when your skin elasticity is still good, when your collagen, in your face. Why are you waiting until 70 and also you need to be treating that skin texture as well, so that you've got nice skin texture prior to a surgery. But so with the unrealistic expectation, someone will come in and say, well, I don't want to have any pores. And they have that peau de l'orange, orange peel skin look.
Yeah.
First of all, that's a filtered photo. We all
Yeah.
have pores. They're, they exist. As we age too, our pores do get larger, dependent also, your T zone. If you've got an oilier T zone, you're going to have a little bit of a larger pore there. So I do think the unrealistic expectations, but I think I always just put my mom hat on, and maybe it's because of my age also. I never want to insult somebody or denigrate them because they have a vision in their head of what they want. I think you just, again, if you build that relationship and handhold the patient and walk them through and, start with, okay, well, maybe you not having lips bothers you, but you've got gorgeous eyes. Let's do some type of enhancement with that. Let's get the brow lifted a little bit. Maybe we do either PRP or, a little bit of filler underneath your eyes and rejuvenate this area. And then start to kind of build up that relationship and trust to
Yeah.
know that I do have your best interest at heart,
Yeah.
and I'm not going to tell you something, but I'm pretty much, I don't know. I guess there's moments that I am a tomboy, so I can be a little bit more bullet point. Like, I mean, this is the reality of it. So,
Yeah. That's good though. I think that's good that you bring that forward because, in this capacity where we're talking about injecting something into someone, like you do need to have that kind of, aspect where you're like, no, this is what you need. Like this may be what you want, but this is what you need, and this is how we can get there, and this is how we can kind of bridge that gap to,
yeah, and another key point that's so important too is, when a patient walks in, for anybody who's listening that is, newer in this industry, again, I can't stress enough the vulnerability of a patient walking in and saying that they want something. They're already self-critical, and then if somebody's like, "Well, you don't have lips," but and your skin's kind of a mess too. You need to throw away all your skincare products and buy from me, and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that, and you walk away $3,500 less and
yeah,
feeling worse about yourself because somebody
yeah,
saw that vulnerability and used it to their advantage for the bottom line, right?
mhm,
And I, I don't know. I
Yeah.
have a different philosophy. I don't want to take advantage of anybody.
No, I love that. And I think that really contributes to like your bedside manner and like where you come from, the experience that you've had. Like you've been in that setting where you're really helping people. Like you've been outside of the, aesthetics as well. So yeah, no, it's very human centric. And I think that's really important. There's one quick thing I wanted to ask you because I found this super interesting. So you mentioned, because you have had shadowed and worked with a plastic surgeon for so many years, you mentioned it's actually kind of better to get a facelift at a younger age.
Mhm.
Have you ever been in a situation where you had someone come to you and they're like, this is what I want, but you felt like, you know what? I can do something here, but I can't do fully what they want until they get like, say, a facelift, for example. So two questions with that. What age, like, do you see that people can actually start going the facelift route? And
Mhm.
then how do you handle that with like, your approach of it being very, trustworthy and human centric, like to tell them what you really believe they should do.
Yes. So, I mean, I think I don't like to always put an age limit, on things. I think if there's a need, so, if you do that skin turgor test and,
Mm,
if they've got a lot of skin, especially if they've had a tremendous amount of weight loss, that skin doesn't always snap back, especially if you've had that weight on for a long time, and if you've lost weight very quickly, you tend to have less skin elasticity. A moderate amount is at 1 to 2 pounds a week, right? So it allows the skin to snap back. So to answer your question in short order, it would be one, skin elasticity. So if that skin has lost that elasticity and it's a little more redundant and loose, then I would consider having some type of a consult with a physician. And a responsible one, always board certified too. You guys, I can't stress enough. The board certification is very important, and also doing research to make sure that they don't have any nicks against their licenses too. And the other thing with the facelift is, I don't like to do things too early or too soon if there isn't a need.
for sure.
But I do feel that as I was seeing with patients, you get a little bit more, you get a better result being a little younger.
Okay. That's so interesting. And see, that's so like cool that you know this because you have that experience where you worked with a plastic surgeon and that's not always the case. So like it's just interesting because you have such a diverse background. Like I didn't know that before. I thought it was always like you go when you're like 50, 60, 70. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's very interesting.
Well,
Okay.
and two, like, I mean, you can see my wallpaper here. It's got a lot of lines in it, right? So, and I explained to the patients too with even when you get a facelift, it's going to pull and lift the skin. But if you haven't done your homework at home and in the treatment room, and this is my aesthetic side of it, if you haven't done things to treat the skin, whether it's lifting that pigmentation, helping to reduce the superficial lines on the skin through a microneedling or through a CO2 laser, your facelift result, because I'll have patients who will say, I had a facelift. And I'm like looking at them like, okay, well, yeah, you're a little tighter, but your skin is still lined. You still
Right.
have all of those nooks and crannies in your skin. So you're not going to have an optimal result if you're not pairing the treatment room with skincare treatments and addressing the sun damage or the environmental stress that our skin goes through, as well as the aging process. So yes, we have the skin and the fat pad descent, right? And the bone remodeling, but we also have the denigration of that epidermal layer of the skin. So you've got to target both if you want to have a good result.
Exactly. It truly is like there's building blocks to this and yeah, everything coincides together. So okay, and kind of on the other side of this, because there has been a bit of a shift with people going more in like the natural,
Mhm.
landscape and beauty. Have you seen more clients that are seeking to like reverse fillers in 2025? And how have you kind of adapted the consultations and treatment planning to meet the shift in more natural looking beauty?
Yeah, well, I wish more patients would be open to dissolving. Um, Only because, the products have changed over the years dramatically. There's so many new available products that are, softer or mid-level G prime, as compared to what we used to have. So I do think the techniques have changed also. And years of getting filler can make you look actually older than what you are. So, I think it's like anything. You've got to bring yourself back down to a baseline sometimes, reassess, and then go ahead and retreat. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. I do wish that people, there's a body dysmorphia, unfortunately, that goes along with it, and people, it frightens people, the process. But there hasn't been one patient that once they put our trust in myself or my injectors who haven't come back and said, God, I was freaking out, but I'm so glad that I did do this. Because again, the
Yeah.
products are like, we have Easy Gel for underneath the eyes,
Mhm.
which is a really nice alternative if people don't want to do filler. So we're able, that's that
Okay.
PRFM or PRP, and then we do the extra step, and then we turn it into a filler form and inject it underneath the eyes in some of the lines. So, for people that want to go that more natural route, we have that option. But, we've all seen the really bad filler jobs. And, I just wish, and I'm honest, if I've got a long-term relationship with my patients,
Yeah.
I'm like, you need to be dissolved. Like,
Yeah.
I won't even touch your lips. If it is to a point where I know that when I go to inject, the filler is going to be pushing back out of the insertion site,
Yeah.
I'm not even going to do it. It's just not worth it financially for me to try to go ahead and do that to the patient.
Yeah. No, we're lucky to have people like you in the space because it just comes down like it's ethical and like what's right, and what is true expertise and leadership, and that's it. Sometimes it is actually saying no, and it's not always leading with the money and the revenue. It's like at the end of the day, money's the byproduct. It's going to come, like success is going to come,
Right.
but if we do the right
Exactly.
thing for our patients, that's what true success is, and that's how everyone wins.
Yeah, it's ethics. It's, we take that Hippocratic oath to do no harm.
Yeah.
And again, aesthetics is, you are feeding on people's insecurities and vulnerability. And I just think that it's
Yeah.
okay to say no
Yeah.
to a patient. Or what I'll do also is I'll table it. So, I've got those patients who think that every time they come in for their 3-month Botox, they want to get their lips done. And I will say, you know what? We don't need to do that this visit, but we'll reassess. So I give them hope. I'm
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
we'll reassess it to next visit. So then I'm able to at least buy 6 months, right? And the beautiful thing is, when I was first trained on tax, we only did, from this eyes up. Now with all the
Yeah.
techniques we do, I'm like, let's do a lip flip, and it buys that patient time, and it mentally just makes them feel better.
Yeah. Yeah. No, exactly. I love that. All amazing. You're incredible. And like, I'm definitely gonna like have to come pay a visit next time I'm in Toronto and just drive over because like I'm excited. Okay. So kind of going from like natural results and then to lower face sculpting, jawline definition. I hear a lot about this right now. Like it's definitely in demand, as you know. What techniques or like technologies have become your go-to for lower face kind of sculpting rejuvenation?
Yeah, so I just had, I don't get excited very often, but I had a patient yesterday, and I'm going to
Okay.
be posting the picture here pretty soon. But when my patient coordinator Kayla sent me the photo, I even said, I go, you guys didn't filter that, did you? And they're like, no. I said, oh my God, it's taken literally 20 years off of this woman.
God.
So, I don't necessarily have a specific product that I like for the jawline. And, there can be all different creations, whether you use cannula or whether you do needle to bone. I don't like to pigeonhole myself in a specific category. Where I need to lay it on bone, I like needle to bone. Where I need to finesse and be in that kind of mid plane, I like to use a cannula. So I use whatever I think is going to give me the best result. And again, I will grab, I have a handful. I love the biomodulators. I love Sculptra. I love Kaha, the Radius. Especially and I have to take age into consideration also because we start to go through bone remodeling, reabsorption, and we're losing that fat pad in the jawline area. So, I like a more structured product for those areas, which would be more of my biostimulators. But I do like a nice high G prime product also. So I do think that more, for many, many years, everybody was concentrating on, just lips. And then I feel like the tear trough area was the hot area that everybody was trying to address. And full face, when a patient comes in and they're like, oh, I want jawline filler. Okay, well, are we going to be balanced though? Right?
Yeah,
Like, I don't
yeah,
want you
yeah,
walking out and you look like Jay Leno because now you've got a chin and you've got a jaw, or, everybody's doing this pointed chin.
yeah, yeah.
Not everybody is supposed to have a heart-shaped pointed chin, appearance. Um, I think it's full face. So I don't know if I'm specifically answering your question
No,
about
this is
jawline, but I
great.
think it's really important to do that full face rejuvenation because, if your lips are protruding and you've got a weak chin, it just makes them look even more larger than perhaps what they even, it's not aesthetically pleasing, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
there's the whole Ricketts law, with your measurements, everything is supposed to be in a measurement form.
yeah, yeah. No, exactly. And I think it's important that you mention that. Like, it's not cookie cutter, right? Like, it's not the same protocol for anyone walking through the door. It's like you really have to assess, like you mentioned, their unique anatomy and what works for them. And then you bring all the different tools that make sense for that person in front of you. So, yeah, totally makes sense. And yeah, you just have such a high level approach to this. Like I'm truly like kind of wowed by like what you're saying, to be honest, because I've talked to a lot of injectors, clinic owners, and physicians and things like that. Everything that we've talked about, you're continually focusing on the expertise, the science, and the human centered approach, which I love. So, okay, kind of moving into, like you mentioned, like, fat pads and losing weight with the rise of GLP-1, like Ozempic, it's everywhere, which, of course, can have facial implications. How are you supporting clients that are looking to restore volume or redefine their appearance after they've maybe gone through Ozempic or are on Ozempic?
So I think it's multiple modalities. Again, depending on how extreme the weight loss was,
Yeah.
do you need to have a consult with a physician for any type of a lift? I do like Radius for stimulating. You get a little bit more where you have to be patient with Sculptra. You can get a little bit more of that instant gratification with Radius. So because in that gel carrier, you're going to get that lift immediately, but then you get that extra benefit of that biostimulator continuously working. And I like to blend it. So I'll do a treatment with a biostimulator, then have you come back in about 4 or 5 weeks. Then we go ahead and we look where are we going to finesse, right? So we're going to start to bake our cake. Then you're going to come back and we're going to do a little bit of the frosting. And that's putting on that final layer of, can we just finesse some of those little superficial lines? Do we need to lift the oral commissures? Do we need to kind of contour that chin a little bit and maybe a little bit here as well? But I do think with the GLP-1s, there's a definite need for full face balancing because that skin, again, elasticity as well as the loss of the volume. And then trying to target that treatment room with your CO2 laser. So here we do have the CO2 laser to help tighten the skin a little bit.
Yeah.
Microneedling, I love it. It's minimal downtime with a great result. I
Yeah.
do think that it is kind of a marriage for sure, the GLP-1s with doing some type of full face rejuvenation because it's just everything is just on that downward slant.
Yeah. Yeah. And would you say, like, I'm just curious, like, do you see a lot of people coming in now with that kind of, Ozempic face, they call it?
Yeah, let's see. Ozempic's now been I guess we have been seeing it for the last couple of years. I don't think that we're any more, but I've been doing sculpture for 13 years. So,
Okay.
I've always kind of had that in my toolbox because even after, this is something that people don't understand with a facelift, unless you couple it with fat grafting, your skin is going to be pulled, but you're still going to have the loss of volume. So if that surgeon does do the fat grafting, then chances are you're probably okay, but you're still going to need, and this is where I wish that the surgeons were even a little bit honest and gave the patients a realistic expectation, or even incorporated, if you don't do fat grafting, they incorporate into their fee, like after your post-op visit, you come back and we'll reassess and I can do some sculpture or some radius to those areas where there isn't volume. Because when you pull that SMAS muscle and the skin, oftentimes I see a lot of deficit in that pre-auricular area here.
Right.
So, or they'll do some of the fat grafting in the front part of the face and they neglect the back. So, and then as you age, this is also still going. So, even like several years post op, because I see a lot of patients from my previous practice that'll come in and I know they had fat grafting, it's all in the face, but they're starting to look almost a pseudotosis, kind of that hound dog look, like they're fuller here but they're losing the volume here. And that again is something that you'll see with Ozempic, because our fat pads here are a little more fuller than back here. And I'll go ahead and I'll put some of that sculptor or radius back here to start, and then it helps to lift also. So, I think again, you have to take every aspect of that person, their goals, and also it's marrying different treatments. It's not a one-stop shop. People come in and think they're just going to get filler and that's the answer to all their questions, or all their answers. That's not typically the way it goes.
Right. Yeah. No, I really appreciate that you actually think about like not what are the tangible results that my patient's going to get right now from this treatment. You are thinking it far ahead, like 5, 10 plus years from now, like the implications and like, you know, just like thinking about that landscape is so important. So, okay. So, taking it from structural correction now to more like the cellular regeneration, again, like huge buzz right now in the industry with those technologies,
Mhm.
like exosomes, PRP, stem
Mhm.
cells. How have you incorporated those kind of technologies into your current offerings? And what do you think about them? Like, do you think it's worth all the buzz? Do you think this is where the industry is going?
I do. I actually do. So as a woman in menopause, I know regenerative medicine has helped me tremendously. I am a firm believer in it for sure. I love exosomes. They're great for cell renewal. I love them. I just had a CO2 laser myself at an amazing plastic surgeon's office here in town. My healing was cut in half by applying the topical exosomes. So they definitely really do work. Unfortunately, there really isn't an FDA approved injectable exosome yet, but I'm holding out hope for that.
Hmm.
We do have PRP though, which, in the meantime, in the interim, we've been using for many, many years. I love PRP. I think it's an amazing tool also, but I kind of give the caveat that, your PRP though is only as good and as healthy as what you are also physically. So I do notice that there is a difference with my GLP-1 users PRP. It tends to coagulate a little bit more. It's a little thicker. So it is a little different. But I also think, like someone her age or my Kayla, who's 25, her PRP is going to be very different than my 52-year-old PRP, right?
Right,
So
right.
that's why I would like to see a little bit more if we could get to the forefront of an FDA approved exosome that could be injected, because I've seen the studies on it. I know what it's doing for people with knee issues and shoulders, and I think it's pretty remarkable. And then, the PDGF that's available now, I have Ariescence here, the serm the salmon sperm.
Yeah, yeah,
Everybody's like
yeah.
freaking out
Everyone's
about,
talking about it.
I mean, I love it when people get on the bandwagon, and then it's often like it's just a different name, right? I'm like, it does the same result, but there's all these different names and products. But I think that that's great with the fibroblast activation and the angiogenesis, stimulating that collagen in those cells to repair themselves. So I am hoping to see more in the regenerative medicine. We've got some things in the works for ourselves. We do the NAD injections, we do IM injections here, taurine, love taurine, glutathione. You being from Vancouver, I'm sure you suffer too, vitamin D, our immunes, everybody's sick in the winter here. I did vitamin D shots all winter long, never got sick between that and vitamin C. So, and
Interesting.
the glutathione. So taurine's great, heart health, muscle recovery. So I do believe in all of that for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. So it sounds like you incorporate that wellness as well into
Yes.
aesthetics, which I agree. I'm such a believer and like so passionate about that. And I do also hope that there is something coming in regenerative therapy for injecting, which I think there will be. So
I'm holding out.
I'm thinking
It's gonna happen.
it'll happen. Yeah. That's totally where the future is going. So, okay. I know we're going to wrap up here soon. So, the last question I really wanted to ask was we already touched on it throughout the conversation, but biostimulators, how are you implementing this into your practice? And how do you kind of differentiate between like you have a client in front of you and like, is it a biostimulator you're using or is it a type of filler?
How do we differentiate? I think again, it's doing that assessment and that plan, right? So, for somebody who we have time, like maybe a mother of the bride or a bride herself, and her target date is June of 2027. Oh, okay, great. We've got 2 years. We can work on this, right? So we can do a little bit of a slower growth with some Sculptra. Because the beauty of Sculptra, you inject it looks fabulous the first day, then it kind of dips down and you're like, oh my God, I wasted my money. I don't see anything. But then it continues to grow over a period of time. So I think, again, it's timing, it's putting together that plan. So if we do have time, then I'm able to do those biostimulators. But if I have somebody who comes in and they're like, you know, and here's the deal too, if anybody's listening and you're new to injecting, I don't care if the patient begs you because they've got an event. It is Murphy's Law. And if it is Friday and they just want under eye filler, they are going to bruise. I don't care. I've got a super soft hand. 9 times out of 10, my patients don't. But if they have an event, they are going to bruise. Take that into consideration. But if they've got an event 4 weeks out, then we don't necessarily have that time for that sculpture or Kaha. Let's just go ahead. Let's grab a hyaluronic acid and inject that and get that instant gratification lift.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just think, it's planning, right? It's just working with the patient and putting together a plan. And the other big thing that I think is really super important is the patient's coming in for a consultation. I'm prescribing, but at the end, it has to be a collaboration with the patient. It's not her telling me what or him what they want and me then rebutting and saying, well, this is what you need. We're supposed to have a meeting of the mind and we're collaborating together and putting together their plan as a relationship in this. So I think that that's really key also.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with you. Okay, thank you for that. I know that we are almost at an hour now. I wasn't expecting that, but this has been such an amazing conversation. I got really into it throughout some questions that we didn't discuss before, but thank you so much for just how you're showing up and
Thank you so much
just
for
like,
your time.
no, thanks like for what you're doing in this world and in this industry. Like truly, I'm leaving this feeling really inspired by you and just excited to come see you.
Yeah. Well, you're
Um,
gorgeous. You don't need anything anyways.
Oh, no, you're so sweet. Like I love everything you talked about and how you're all about natural results and you definitely
Thank
just know
you.
what you're talking about. Okay, well, let's just wrap this up and let's leave the listeners with how can they contact you? Where are you located? What's your, I know you have Instagram, your email, and I will also put this all in the show notes as well so that people know exactly where to find you.
Okay, so we are in Birmingham, Michigan, which is located about 30 minutes north of Detroit in a suburb. The name of my company is Our Skin Aesthetics by Raquel, and you can find us on Instagram. My personal one is Our Skin Admission, and the business account is Our Skin Aesthetics, and our website is Our Skin. And we've got a link tree. So if you go to either one of the Instagram accounts, so you can book online with some of the providers, or it answers a lot of questions that you may have.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you so much, Raquel. Guys, I'm going to put
Oh
that
my
in the
God,
show notes
Kayla,
for you.
thank you.
No, I appreciate you so much. Honestly, this has been really fun, and I just can't wait to talk to you again in the future. Not at all. You're so busy. I just like appreciate you coming here and being like giving us your time. So no, this has been amazing. Thank you so much. I will be in touch with you because I just like I have so many more questions. I want to learn more about
Yeah,
you.
I would love that. I would love that. Please stay in touch.
Okay, thank you so much,
And
Raquel.
you enjoy that little Yorkie and get back with your husband so he doesn't
Yes.
worry.
Oh yeah. He calls me all the time. It's like not
I know
now.
mine's dinging me right now.
Oh my gosh. Oh gosh. All right. Well,
All
have a good
right.
rest
Well,
of your day.
thank you
Thanks.
so
Thanks for going
much.
over.
Okay. All
Okay.
righty.
Take care.
Bye bye.
Bye.